I don't know what you're tripping about, dude.
Okay, wait, look at me real quick.
Uh-huh.
Okay, ready?
Okay.
I want somebody to talk to, not just sleep with. Do you fucking understand what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Jesus, dude.
White people get hung up on this fucking soulmate bullshit. Just hook up with a chick that can cook and wants kids. Some bitch that's down for you. That won't fuck your friends and you're straight. Dude, you're the smartest motherfucker I know. You're not gonna find some chick that's as smart as you.
Oh. Really, dude?
Yeah, what?
Really? I'm sorry that the perfect girl wasn't dropped in front of me when I was 18 years old. Do you talk to Gabby? Do you even have discussions with the girl? Do you want me to translate that into fucking Spanish?
Into Hispanic?
Whatever the fuck it is.
Hello, listening people.
Hello.
Hello, Bartek. How are you?
Good, Ryan. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I feel like I've come to the end of my watch, and I'm here to discuss a film with you.
Ah, we're going to cop an episode, are we?
We're going to cop out, yeah. We already did that movie.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think
we
that-
said it at the same time.
Isn't that one of those episodes where, like, we don't have the full episode out because of bug?
Because the bug that is Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
So we are here to do our show Pictures Powwow, Bartek, and we are spitting and being Polish while we do it. We are spitting facts, and we are Polish while we do that.
Yep.
We are in the top 10 Polish podcasts until your brother makes his own podcast and he becomes number one.
Damn.
Damn, Daniel, indeed.
Well, he has to put Polish in the title because apparently that's enough to qualify you.
Well, that and just saying it in the description.
Yeah.
So if your brother puts, like, Oscar Polish number one in the title, he'll become Polish number one.
The Truth About My History with Shark Tale, Part 1.
The game.
The game.
Part 1.
Part 1, Backstory and Movie.
And then the final episode will be called Finn. So,
Finn, lol.
Finn lol. Sounds like a food. Have you had some Finn lol? So we are here to talk about a movie that came recommended. Bartek, you recommended this film that is being discussed. What is the film that you recommended for those who can't read?
Yes, I really insisted that this was a my recommendation episode.
Yes.
We are doing...
You put your foot down.
I put my foot down. I do that a lot when I walk.
Only 1 foot.
1 foot. The other one
He leaves it dragging while he does it.
It's on autopilot, so
Yeah.
sometimes, whatever. The film that I picked is 2012's End of Watch.
End of Watch.
End of Watch, not The Watch.
No, End of Watch starring Jake Gyllenhaal and Michael Pena.
Yes.
And Anna Kendrick. Let's never forget Anna Kendrick of Twilight fame is in this. And of Pitch Perfect fame too, I guess.
I haven't seen either.
Well, is that what we're going to do next episode?
I've seen Vampires Suck, though.
Let that one sit, people. Let that one sit
I
for a while.
I arrived late to the theatre, so I didn't see the beginning.
Oh, I can imagine what the beginning is. It is like the rest of them, disjointed scenes. So
I really don't remember that film.
End of Watch, if people have not seen the film, it is there to watch. In Australia, it is on Netflix, so there we can watch it there, but I don't know where else it is available. But people watch it. We're going to talk about it in depth, spoilers and all. The plot is fairly simple, but it's more about the execution of said plot.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
The plot being two cops who are friends go about their lives being cops and then get tangled up in a cartel plot.
Yeah, the film, it introduces itself and presents itself like one of these police officers is just filming them doing their normal work. Vlogging, but essentially for a class at college. And it just gives you this impression like, okay, nothing special is going to happen, nothing special is supposed to happen, but then eventually, movie drama, something very serious does happen that changes the tone of what we're watching.
So you recommended this. Tell us your history with the film and why you recommended it.
So I saw this film in cinemas in 2012.
With your mum?
No, the other parent.
Your dad,
I was in Poland with my dad.
Oh, so this had a lector. The look on your face.
It should have. It had Polish subtitles.
Okay, fair enough.
I can't remember if the Spanish would have been subtitled for me in English, but whatever. So I saw this film with my dad and my stepmom in Poland in 2012. I remember before we went to the cinema, it was just a case of like, let's go see a movie. It's not like we had anything in mind, that we looked at things and I didn't really know much there. So I was like, oh, I heard that Argo is good. I guess we could see that. But they voted for End of Watch. So I was like, okay, outvoted, but I didn't really care. So let's see it.
I mean, he sounds bitter still about it almost 10 years later.
Hey, look, I've seen this film 3 times and I haven't seen Argo once. So
it's on Netflix. You could watch it.
I probably could, yeah. It's
My
Best
pick
Picture.
for next episode is Argo.
Oh, Best Picture 2012, not End of Watch. So we watched this film. We End of Watched this film. We got to the end of Watch. And we all really liked it. We were all surprised by it. I don't know how much any of us knew about the film going in. I was definitely like 0.
I'm really surprised to hear that you've seen this 3 times.
I saw it in the cinema once, and then not for a very long time. I showed it to my stepbrother like a year or 2 ago, and then I've picked it for this.
I guess that makes sense. I was gonna say, like, I don't associate you being a big rewatcher of moderner movies unless they're like Bollywood stuff or your mum puts them on or something. Like, I don't see you.
It's true.
Unless we do it for the podcast or something. Or
I mean, yeah, my second viewing wasn't really for myself. It was like, oh, let's find something. Oh, this is on here. I remember this being good.
Yeah. But even that I don't associate you with doing with more modern movies. You'll be like your go-tos, like Kentucky Fried Movie or Freddy Got Fingered or I'm kidding with that one. That was different. But so you chose this. It sounds like you had a really positive experience with this movie.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it that first time. It was a very, human film. And it's an interesting one to rewatch, the little things you forget, the things you remember. And yeah, I wanted to have a little discussion about it. See what we can get out of it when we put our heads together. How about yourself, Ryan, with history?
I've seen this movie before. I saw it on DVD. I don't own it, but somebody had it a year or so after it came out, I guess. I must have been at university.
It must have been 2013.
With the date. For some reason, I remember seeing... I might have been back in my hometown. I remember holding it in a location in my hometown, but I associated that being like, I was in high school. It must have been the last year of high school, but that dates don't line up. So
we didn't have our first viewing in Melbourne.
No. So I watched this movie back in the day. Yeah, while for me, haven't seen it since until doing this. I didn't remember too much about it. I remember the performances were good. I almost completely forgot that it was a found footage style, not a conventional film in that way. It's, they're using cameras within it to film things. I almost forgot about that, but then I remembered Jake Gyllenhaal's comedic vlogs in the movie that kind of go away after a certain point. And I just remember this as that movie where I first recognized Michael Pena as an actor. I know he's been around the block for a very long time, but I don't remember him from very many things. And this was one that left an impression on me. I'm like, oh, this guy's really good. He can do the drama and the comedy. Like Jake, we all know he's good.
Yeah.
We've always known he's good. He's a good guy. He's a good actor.
I love Jake, yeah.
We all love Jake. Jakey Jake. But Michael, I didn't know him. I didn't know him very well. And he left an impression on me that has never been matched. Everything else I've seen him in, he's never been this good.
Yeah, this was really the first time I'd seen him or even heard of him in a film. So every time he came back, it's like, oh, End of Watch guy, and never quite reached it, other than Collateral Beauty.
Oh, yeah, and One Day Chips, the other cop film he did, which also had improvisation. So
is that the one where he has a speech about going...
Eating ass?
Eating ass, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, everyone's eating everyone's butts now.
Tossing salad.
Everyone's eating everyone else's butts. Yeah. Michael Pena. So I was excited to rewatch this. I remembered how it ended. I mean, it's one of those movies where you remember that. And I was enthralled watching it again last night. I was drawn in and I remembered what I loved about it, which were the characters.
Yeah.
Not just our main two, but the other cops and even some of the criminals, and I fell in love with the movie all over again like I did the first time. I still have my issues, primarily 2 issues, but overall I had a great time. How was it for you to come back and rewatch it and to be watching it with your critical lens on, with your glasses on of being a critic and your scarf and you're stroking your beard the whole time going, I don't know about that one, Jake.
I wouldn't have done that, no. No.
No. He would have said, "I don't know about that one, David Ayer." That's more you.
Michael Pena playing Miguel, whose nickname is Mike.
Yeah.
This was one I rewatched it again the other year with my stepbrother, and usually when I watch films with him, my brain's more turned off than usual. So it was a revisit where I was like, I didn't quite remember engaging with it as much during my last viewing, so I'm kind of waiting to be surprised again to remind myself of why I really enjoyed it the first time. And yeah, there was a much clearer, I suppose, character development-ish arc throughout the film. Like, at the very beginning, our two main characters, they have a lot of very problematic-ish kind of, lines or views about their job. Like, it literally begins with like I'm a cop, I have brothers, I will hunt you down because it is my job and I will not relent.
And then like murdering people.
And then murdering people, having no qualms about it. And then as the film goes on, they calm down a little bit. They start, feeling empty inside about certain things. And even though it is still keeping up this whole tone of like, I am making a project for college here, that's why I'm documenting everything, you get a lot more moments where they're not addressing the camera and they're just like being themselves, taking everything seriously. And it's a very fly on the wall experience.
Yeah, that's the way to describe it. I loved the precinct of cops. I thought Frank Grillo was really good. I loved his weird speech he was having with those soldier guys at the wedding, and he was like talking about like, that bullet should have been for me, and you're like, oh, this guy's getting some development. And of course, David Harbour as the dickhead. Van Houser, USS Van Houser. His whole character, or lack thereof, because you don't actually get a lot of him, but he leaves an impression. And of course, you recognize that actor, David Harbour. He was in Green Hornet.
Green Hornet, yeah.
Where he got run over with a car out through a building, off a building. And more recently, he's in Stranger Things, and he played Hellboy.
Which I haven't seen, but as you know, I've recently had one or two very young people tell me that I look like him.
You could say students, right?
Students, yeah.
Don't just say young people in general. Walk up to you on the street and go, you look like that guy from Stranger Things.
Yeah.
So it was fun to see him. He was very intense, as kinda.
He reminded me of the creepy guy from Wayne's World a bit.
Which creepy guy?
The guy that works in like the diner.
Oh, Al Bundy. Yeah. From Married with Children. Yeah, Ed O'Neill. Yeah. I was really drawn in. I liked the movie until it decided it needed to lock in to the plot of the cartel want their revenge on these guys for finding things. Like, that's where it started to lose me. Like, I love the movie still, but it was like, I kind of wish that this movie was just a hangout type movie where we don't need the 3-act plotting and we got to have the shootout at the end and
the tragic action scene finale.
Because it's very obvious. As soon as you have our two characters, they might as well have one of them say, I'm one day from retirement.
Well, there was one guy who's like, hey guys, there's an action scene coming soon. You got to be careful. It's like, nah, it's good.
No, it's good. I mean, I have a wife with a baby and he has a wife who's pregnant. So we're going to be fine and everything's good. And we're hero cops and we've finally found our groove.
We have plot armor.
Not for long.
Not for long.
That bugged me. And my other issue is, and I want to talk about this, the decision to make it a found footage thing. I grew tired of it after a certain point, and after a certain point, it started to not make sense to me.
I noticed it this time. For sure.
Let's talk about the most, I guess, esoteric complaint in that regard of time. How long is this movie? Like, how many months or years does this go on for?
Yeah, before me giving my impression, I read online that apparently it takes over like 8 months. But I'm not. Yeah, I wasn't really thinking about it during because I guess it would be over the course of 8 months that don't have especially notable weather things like snow, because they all kind of have like the upper arms.
Yeah.
Showing, so that implies like
heat.
You have the scene.
I mean, they are the heat.
Yeah, they have the scene halfway through where they like put their head inside the fridge and things like that. To cool
down. Falling down. Yeah, I asked that because it's like, how long is this school project going on for? I don't know how American...
that's a good point.
I don't know how American schools do, but I don't think a single elective goes on for practically a year. There came a point where it was also, let's show the villains on their own. We have to have an excuse for why they're filming, but there is no excuse other than just one of them is constantly, and I was losing it by that point. I was getting frustrated.
And then you have moments where it's like, oh, no one's filming, but we're just watching this happen.
Yeah, and there's zooms and...
Yeah.
Did this film have any benefit other than mildly comedic benefits of it being this way, being told through this narrative device of cameras actually actively filming the things we're watching? Because that's the big be-all and end-all of this type of movie, the found footage. It's about the immersion factor that this brings in.
Yeah, and this one's not like a horror film, which a lot of these kind of films are horror films.
So did this film... was it benefited by this approach to telling the story to you?
I think it did at least add into the element of like you're a fly on the wall. You're watching something where you're not there, but you have a means to see like what is going on there. And there are little moments where they will react to something that you don't see, and you have to kind of wait for the moment in which the camera will show you what it is they're reacting to, and that builds like suspense. Like I think there are at least like 3 or 4 moments in the film like that, like where they've gone into a home and they've found something fucked up.
You could still film it like that without it having to be in universe explain that that's like a body cam that we're watching this through.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. At first I was on board with it. I'm like, yeah, cool. And we're bringing up his camera all the time. But literally, the moment we snapped to the cartel and they were filming, I was like, oh, okay, fuck this. So I wasn't actively against it, but I was just like, oh,
if they
forget it.
Maybe if they kept it just to our main 2 guys.
That's what I
better,
think.
Yeah.
My big complaint too is, here's my changing of the script. Change. Let's fix the movie because I'm a screenwriter, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we ever needed to see any point of view from those cartel people. They weren't interesting characters. They didn't offer anything other than we know that danger's coming to them. But I felt like the building of the stakes of them finding all these fucked up things and people warning them, hey, don't pull at this thread or else it's going to get you. Don't pull on the snake's tail. I thought that was effective enough. I don't think I needed that scene where we're just spending like fucking years at this house party and the woman's like, she's my bitch and whatever. I'm like, I don't think any of that was needed. I thought the black guy and his gang were good enough to explain their stuff, like the Mexican stuff as well, but I don't know.
I think mainly the party one I'd keep just because our main guys go to that party for a bit. But all the other ones where they're just in the car talking, like, obviously, it's building up to what they're going to do and things like that. But the tone and even the literal language of the film kind of changes there to this completely different experience of like, okay, these people are really despicable, and the tone of voice and the things that they're saying all kind of, match too closely. We're not getting much variety. It's like, you fucking do it, man. You fucking did it. I'm fucking evil. We're gonna fucking do this.
I'm Mr. Evil.
Oh, are you thinking of changing your mind? Hell no, I'm not thinking of changing my mind. Just saying we gotta prepare shit.
This is Bartek's portrayal of these people, by the way.
Yes.
Big Evil.
Yes, yeah, Lala and Big Evil.
See, for me, I don't think we needed any point of view of them because the whole film is like using this method to give us a fly-on-the-wall perspective of these 2 main characters. But then we're cutting with the same fly-on-the-wall perspective of other characters who we don't get any depth or nuance on, and nor do we need any depth or nuance of these characters, to the point in which I don't think those cartel members needed to be shown as characters the way that they were. You could still have that party scene, but you shoot it completely from the cop's perspective of entering that party.
Yeah, you can easily have like a real close-up of Big Evil when he's like staring into... Because that was menacing, but it was obviously a different camera perspective going on.
But also, no offense, I think it's down to the writing and direction, but I didn't think any of them were good actors. I didn't think any of them were memorable performances. What you just did there, as over the top, that's what it was. And there was no it was just not fun hanging around with them. And it's shown in the movie that lesser characters, like the rookie cop lady who gets beat the fuck out later in the movie, she was better performed and better written and better defined than those characters were. Yeah, they had more screen time than her.
There was a point, during, I think it was one of the last times the cartel members were in the car, like, having a scene of theirs where one of them calls Big Evil Big E, and I just, like, thought about them, like, oh, yeah, the Big E stands for Big Evil, because they mentioned it in the party scene, and it was like, he kind of mattered more in that scene where he wasn't saying much and was just, like, being threatening by staring at the guy. These scenes... Again, this feels like a repeat of a scene I've already seen.
So that's my major faults with the movie overall. I think that it also does suffer from, like I said, the Hollywood isms of, you know how it's going to end. They're either both going to die or one of them's going to die, and the other, will be sad, and it'll be like, but this is a part of being a cop, and it's just, yeah. I mean... Not to bring it up again, but Falling Down subverted that trope where he was constantly like, it's my last day, and they're like, don't die. And he's like, I won't, and then he doesn't. And it was great, and he solved it, and he won, and he was like, fuck you, Captain Yardley, fuck you very much.
I think that was a good movie.
I think it was.
I'm just putting it out there. I know it's, Brave and everything. I'm pretty good, and my impression of cartel members is great, but,
Hashtag Brave Bartek, or as we call him, BB. So, BB, my BB.
Yes, BR.
We're in Death Stranding now, you're my BB. So, let's talk about those actors. Jake Gyllenhaal, we said he's great all the time.
Mm-hmm.
What's one of those roles or characters or movies you remember first encountering Jake Gyllenhaal where he left an impression on you, something you remember him fondly for, or something that he was in and you're like, that guy. Because he's just, for me, he's always just been there.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Off the top of my head, I remember Prince of Persia: Sands of Times. But I do feel like there would have been something before that.
Brokeback Mountain?
I haven't seen Brokeback Mountain, but I like Jake, so I'm willing to check it out at some point. And I remember after I saw Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, I would start seeing him in more things. Like, I think not long after that, I watched Donnie Darko.
That's what I was going to say. Mine's Donnie Darko. That's where I first saw him, and I was like, oh, this guy.
And then, kind of after that, other than Bubble Boy, which I loved Bubble Boy so much when we did that on the show.
Can we please mention the fact that the guy in this movie is Bubble Boy? This fucking guy. Did you ever get sidetracked when you watched him in this doing comedy moments and you're like, I remember when he did comedy in Bubble Boy?
No, but it's just been ever since we did Bubble Boy on the podcast, I was like, man, I have to show my mum Bubble Boy at some point. I think she'd really love that movie.
She would.
And that was actually, speaking of my mum, I would see films in the cinema with him in it that were like, well, Nightcrawler's a big one that people know, but the little low ones that not as many people talk about, like Southpaw. I think he was also in Everest.
Yeah.
Things like that. And just seeing him do these really intense performances very sincerely and just, it just captures your attention.
He is a dynamic performer, but he is best when he plays weirdos. I think that's... You would really like Prisoners. It's a Hugh Jackman movie. Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal. And Jake Gyllenhaal's like the cop in the movie, but he's like a weirdo. And he's got those bug eyes. Yeah. And I like Jake Gyllenhaal. Donnie Darko is definitely the one for me that set him in my mind. And then Brokeback Mountain after that. And ever since then, he's just been one of those guys that, if he's in a movie, it's going to be decent.
He's consistently enthralled me, so...
Yeah.
He might even be my favorite Hollywood actor, even though I haven't seen anything with him, but yeah.
He's usually very good, and even he's dynamic enough to be able to do comedy stuff and tell the jokes like in this movie. He reminds me of a more polished version of Tobey Maguire. Mm-hmm. They're both kind of dorky guys. Like, Jake Gyllenhaal's intense, but like, when I watched him in this movie, I'm like, oh, he's a bit of a dork. Even though, like, he's a bald cop guy who, like, could beat my ass and, like, kill me.
We've seen him dance, though.
I've seen him dance. But, like, yeah, I and also he's Bubble Boy, so I'll never forget his Bubble Boy. He will always be Bubble Boy. But I loved him in this. I thought that when I would watch it again, that he would be the one that would enthrall me more because I'm a bigger fan of him. But Michael Pena, man. Every moment he was on screen, I was 100% locked into my seat. I found him funny. I found him intimidating. I found him charming as hell. I wanted to spend time with him.
He had a lot of really intriguing moments. Like, whenever one of the aforementioned fucked up things would happen and they would both react, his one would just be this kind of, like, colder, deader one of, like, what's going on in his head? What is he thinking about in this moment? Because, like, Jake Gyllenhaal's off screen, like, going, fuck, and, like,
or he will, like, physically grab someone and yell at them about it, like with the kids. That one where they were, like, taped up.
Whereas Miguel, Michael Pena, is just, like, inner monologuing and we can't hear what he's saying.
Yeah, he's processing. He's far more internal, even though he's an extroverted, loud guy. I really loved that scene in which he was talking about how he told his grandmother, it was his grandmother that he wanted to marry.
Yeah.
And that piece of advice, like, really think about it. And he played it so well of that mixture of the absolute sincerity of that belief and that statement that came along with that. Like, genuinely think about it, but also the mixture of that dude bro friend who's like, oh, dude, yes. Really think about it. She could ruin your life.
We haven't said this yet, listening people, but this film's very dude bro.
It's very dude. It's very masculine. And even the women are very masculine. That's why Anna Kendrick's so fucking weird in this movie. Because that was a kick in the head. I forgot that Anna Kendrick was in this. Because here's the thing, Bartek. Anna Kendrick is one of those funny ladies. But she's like randomly in some weird movies in her career. So for instance, she has a tweet about this where she herself has forgotten that she was in the Twilight movies. Like, when they come on, I'm like, oh, that's right. Because even for her, it's weird that she's in those fucking movies.
Was she a vampire?
No, she was her bitchy friend from high school.
Okay.
Which, once I tell you that, you can totally imagine her playing that role, can't you? You can fill that in. Like, she looks like the preppy girl at the high school who would be judging your fashion.
She looks like she could do it, yeah.
But she's her friend. And I think she's, in the Twilight movies, I think she's the one that has some, like, supremely funny jokes about Edward being a weird-looking dude. But, that's for another episode.
Yeah,
but
next week.
Michael Pena, like, I was captivated by him. He was so charming, and that's not what no offense to him, but I don't associate him with that phrase. Like, when we watch Collateral Beauty, or when I've seen him in other things, I don't think of him as a charming screen presence. I think of him as like an aggravating one, or like a pity, like someone I feel pity upon rather than actual empathy for.
I remember when I watched Ant-Man with my friends. I know you love that film, but...
Everyone's favorite film, Ant-Man. The film that I would describe as sleep-inducing to look at. Like, we spend... I know... Sorry, Bartek. We gotta cut in.
That's fine.
We spend so much fucking time at Hank Pym's fucking brown mansion where there's nothing fucking interesting to look at, and all I think of that movie is just, like, wood paneling. That's all I fucking think of. I even forgot that Michael Pena was in that. Thanks for reminding me.
The thing that I remember is, like, Michael Pena and a bunch of other guys are the main guy's friends, and they're, like, the comedy relief of the film, and I hated them in that film. My friends found them funny. I did not find them funny, and I wasn't thinking of it at the time when I was watching it, but maybe me remembering how funny he is in this film probably lent itself to that feeling.
Yeah, I felt really bad for him. He died in this movie, and I felt the loss of it this time round because, again, I was walking in being like, I'm all for Jake. But the film grabbed me by the shoulders with his performance and looked me dead in the eyes and was basically saying, but Michael Pena is kind of the heart of this movie.
Yeah, we're going to end the film literally with him giving another funny little story.
Yeah, that was fun.
That really worked well for the film.
Yeah, it just reminded you of who these guys are.
And like you said, if the whole film could have been more like that the whole way through instead of ending like that, so that it kind of still wants you to finish the film on a good note.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm singing his praises a lot, but your opinions, anything else you want to say about Michael Pena in this? I mean, was he the one that you enjoyed the most out of the two, or does your love for Jake overwhelm it?
I think it's similar to you. I remember that Jake Gyllenhaal's in this, and I've liked him in so many things that, I'm going to see another Jake Gyllenhaal movie, and it's a buddy film where he's going to work alongside Michael Pena, yeah, it'll be great. And then Michael Pena has all these really sincere things. Like, when he brought up the thing of, like, you're going to marry a Mexican girl, I was like, I remember this whole conversation. This is actually one of the, sort of mini monologues that I remember the most about this film from previous viewings. And it's a Michael Pena scene.
Yeah, and obviously, the scene where he, I loved his wife too. Like his wedding speech he gave, and like, you're marrying a cop and all these things, and he's like, I'm gonna cry, but shut up.
Yeah, he really nailed that whole, like, brothers in blue kind of thing with that speech. Like, all of these cops here, they're your family now, and even Anna Kendrick was looking like, whoa.
Yeah, she was kind of dumbfounded, and I loved how his character was the more reckless out of the two. Like, when they were on beat on the duty, like him fighting the guy, like taking off his shit. It's like, all right, let's fucking fight.
And of course the fire scene.
But at the same time, the movie rewards that behavior from him. But in their real life stuff, I think, like, although he's juvenile and a bit silly, he's the more mature one because he has had those life experiences that Jake Gyllenhaal is only just starting upon. I also love that conversation that they had where Jake Gyllenhaal kind of snaps at him a bit, and he's just like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't find my soulmate when I was 18 years old, and she didn't even hand it to me. And like, the whole thing about Michael Pena, like, you white people care so much about soulmates. Like, fucking hell. Like, that stuff was captivating. Like, honestly, I would have loved if this movie was just a hangout movie where we just hung out with some characters, watched them do their day-to-day stuff, and then it ended, honestly. I would have been happy if End of Watch was literally them ending Watch. Like, that's it. But I know it had to have the one of them dies and the drama of it all. But then I also remember when Michael Pena died, the last thing he heard was "rest in piss" from the cartel, and I went, "Oh, okay."
Yeah,
like, that's the kind of thing I think about when I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, she like gave him like 2 little pot shots at the end. I was like, "Oh, that's I fell in love with that man. Don't do that.
Don't do that, Lee.
Don't do that, Lala." That's her name.
Thank you. Did you have a particular favorite scene?
Yeah, the one with when he was talking about, I took a girl to prom, was married a week later. That was a really good one. In terms of all of the scenes where, like, the really fucked up things happen, like they find, weird things in people's homes. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Twin Peaks: The Return, because that had the whole thing.
Where there's like fucked up shit happening.
It's like, oh, these are the characters that you remember and have good times with, but the world has changed. There's all these like fucked up things you almost can't explain. Which earlier on, when you were talking about how if we got less of the cartel throughout the scene, I feel like that notion would have been a lot stronger, because it would be like this. Whoa, what is this? What is happening? Just
sickness of the world is just ever present. I loved. I found the scene where they went into the house where they were just like, my job is that we're going to take the easy one today and just look at this, find this old woman with welfare checks, and it leads to the gruesome, grisly cartel scene. The heads and the dead body,
dead body pile.
That was a lot. And I loved how fluid the camera moves there were when the camera's like bolted onto the back of the gun when we're seeing it from... Remind me of Doom, the film Doom, when we had the first person shooter scene.
There was, in the climax, there was one moment where it literally was a first person shooter. It was like after they left that one apartment room, they got shot up.
Yeah. It reminded me of Doom with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Would this film have been better with Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart? What do you think?
They could have, one of them could have been the partners of Van Houser.
No, you get Sam Jackson and Dwayne Johnson to play their characters from the other guys, where they're like the superhero cops.
Yeah.
That's what you get them to do. Look, what do you think about how the film portrays and frames the police as an entity? Because obviously that's something to discuss in the modern day context as well. There was obviously let's not pretend, in these societies, in America in particular, there's been a lot of hostilities between people of color and the police, and just people and the police. And it's kind of funny now to look back at this movie that's almost 10 years old and be like, ooh, this film really loves the cops. Ah.
Yeah. Criticism of the police is on an all-time high in our modern day.
Yeah.
Again, early on, when you had that whole speech about how, like, I've got brothers, we'll stop you no matter what. And, them kind of taking their job a little bit like a joke. Like, oh, yeah, let's do this. Yeah, we'll beat up this guy. It did kind of, make you pull on your sleeve a little bit. But it still did have a lot of these humanizing moments where we did get their perspective on, what the job is, who the people they work with are, and how even they have, negative opinions about the things they do. Like Van Houser straight up says, like, this job is gonna fuck you if you're in it long enough.
And it did for him.
And it did for him, and his exit from the film, wasn't very...
heroic.
Wasn't very heroic, wasn't very pleasant. Yeah, and even their the guy that's in charge of them, he's always trying to keep them in line. He's like, you're doing these things, it's making my
Frank
job
Grillo,
more annoying. Yeah, it did humanize them in that sense.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's that thing of it's very hard to humanize the police, and especially in the climate where we're in, where we're criticizing them a lot.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this film, let's talk about this film, is a film about human characters, and you have to humanize your characters even if they are a part of an institution that is or a force that is inherently got a lot of issues going on, especially even back then. Like the racial politics of this movie we could go on for years about. I mean, there's a lot of stuff here happening, and it's not as if the film shies away from it. And I think that's the thing too, is it makes us uncomfortable in the way that our main two characters, as likable as they are, they have wives, they have kids on the way, or kid, and they're lovable, but they will kill people.
Yeah, the duel...
And that's their job. But we also see in the movie, there are those moments where they're like, hey, you could have killed that guy, and he's like, I didn't feel like killing today.
Yeah, there was a real strong sense of this dynamic where you have all of these scenes where they're goofing off, being dude bros, joking around. Even when they're about to start working, like, oh, well, first customer of the day. And then when they're actually interacting with people, they're like these hard-ass cops who are, just like yelling, screaming, holding people's heads to fences and like yelling questions and, swearing without a care.
Yeah.
It is striking.
Yeah, and it's a lot to take in, and I don't think it's the fault of the movie to necessarily have our main two characters be cops and they're humanized, but I do think there is there could have been more harsher critiques of police in this. It's like all of the cops are pretty well humanized, and it's a weird thing because, again, the movie works. I think it's all fine, but at the same time, it is one of those things where, we watch it, and like you said, you pull on your collar a little bit at some moments, and you go, oh, this wouldn't be made today, type of thing. While, hell, even when we did In the Heat of the Night back in the day, that film was way harsher on the police, but it was also humanizing the police at the same time. I think, you know what I'm saying there? Like, that film was very harsh about the issues of the police force, but also our characters were police officers, so it was humanizing them at the same time. We got to know them, we got to feel who they were, even if Gillespie in that was a racist or had issues with black people or whatever. We still got to know him, we still got to feel for him, and we still got to understand why he became friends with Sidney Poitier at the end of the movie. But here, it's just like, it's kind of there, but kind of not, but also like, hey, those cartel, though, oh boy.
There was one moment, it was in the party scene where the female officer had like this implied history with the cartel, like before she was a cop. It was like, oh, okay. They come from, harsher contexts, but they become police officers and they change.
Yeah.
The film needed Deputy Andy, though.
From Twin Peaks? yeah, and Lucy, too.
Lucy, yes. We need a receptionist character.
Yeah, and she's too busy trying to figure out how mobile phones work.
She could have been the person that they report into, like X13.
Yeah, and she's like, "Oh, I don't know about that." Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I found the movie just very striking. I like the color palette of it. It had that real natural look to it. Had the right amount of desaturation to it, but also the right amount of color to emphasize the heat of this, like the actual heat in the world. And every house they went to was gross in the right way.
And yeah, they mentioned that the place that they've been assigned to for the duration of this film is like a more crime-ridden part of the city where you'll get more of certain, call-ins than other officers will get in their whole career. So it was kind of disturbing. It's like, oh, this house that an old lady lives in, oh, it's so messed up.
Yeah, or the people who call them to be like, my kids are missing, but there's like, you're the one who put your kids in the cupboard.
Yeah. Yeah, on the way here, when my cartel homies were giving me a lift, they didn't say anything. I was thinking to myself, it was a striking film, but I was surprisingly not thinking about it too much. Like, normally when I'm on the way here, it's like an hour trip almost. I'm thinking about the film, analyzing it, and it's like, I think this film kind of, presents itself on its sleeve. Like, what you see is what you get.
Yeah, I'll say the same too. Like, it left an impression, but it's not going to be one I think about all that much because it states its things pretty firmly. And by the end of the movie, when you got Jake Gyllenhaal there, Michael Pena's gone, and on the wife's crying face, and you have Anna Kendrick with this look of realization of this is my life. Got it. I got it. Nailed it down.
I remember after the initial viewing with my dad and my stepmom, this left an impression on me because it was so bizarre and I didn't really know how to respond to it. But my dad had a theory that the climax of the film happened because you remember there was the scene where like the higher tiered police people were like staking out a house you fucked up, we're missing a DOI now. He had a theory that, like, they called the hit on our main guys, and I didn't really know how to respond to that because it just didn't feel right.
I think it's just that they kept finding things that they shouldn't have because Jake wanted to be a detective. It's all Jake's fault. That's what I'm saying. At the end of the day, it was the white man's fault.
It was, his... And I feel like when you think about that, the scene in that what do you call it? No, the convenience store.
Right.
Where they're like cooling themselves down. He's talking about how we just received a Medal of Honor.
Yeah, do you feel like a hero?
Do you feel like a hero? No, and they just feel empty, and it's like, what do we strive for now?
I do like the question he asks though, which is, and it's a very hard question to actually answer, even in their situation. What does being a hero feel like? I don't know. I've probably done things that people may say have been good or heroic or whatever, but I don't know. So it's not even like I see it necessarily as they feel empty about it. It's just like, for them, it was the thing to do. It was an obvious response to do.
Yeah.
They didn't even think about it. They just did it. And that's what eventually leads to their downfall in a lot of ways, is their impulsiveness of just being good people in a world that doesn't want that. That's why Van Helsing was Van Helsing?
Yeah.
He was an interesting character because he was like far more chicken shit than they were, but he also got punished anyway for going. I mean, he got a knife in the eye. That was a very weird scene of events because he was like supremely calm about it.
Yeah, he was in shock, clearly.
Yes, but it was such a weird scene.
Even his exit where he's like putting him in the ambulance, just saying, "You cut my vest." It's like, oh man,
they cut my vest. They cut my fucking vest. Yeah, he was a lot. I don't know what else to say. I thought it was decent. I don't think it's the best Jake Gyllenhaal thing I've seen. I think it's just a decent Jake Gyllenhaal performance. Like, he's not really blowing me out of the water with this one, but I do love the dedication that he put in. You can clearly tell that they all put in, except for Anna Kendrick, who did not want to be tased, apparently. That was a trivia fact. Yeah. She's like the only one who declined, and she's like, I don't know, I think other people should have declined, but hey, what do I know? I'm like, okay, Anna.
I don't know. I think her performance, I think it
could have used some tasing.
The experience of having been tased could have improved that performance of
being the wife,
of being the love interest that doesn't involve herself in the action.
She's a scientist.
Was she?
Jake Gyllenhaal. She's a science person. She studies.
Yeah, that's right.
It was something about I can't remember what it was, like fluids. Or something.
Fluid hydraulics or something.
Something weird like that. She's
Yeah.
science, and her parents are super old school.
Yeah. So not the highest tier Jake Gyllenhaal performance, but in terms of the Michael Pena tier,
I mean, it's S tier.
it's S tier.
I mean, it's below Chips.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah.
I mean, Chips is
I know
the
a guy.
height.
I know a guy on YouTube who bought a lot of Blu-ray copies of that film.
I know a guy who knows a guy.
I like the scene in it was when they were filling out the paperwork after getting that like huge haul and
The hot fuzz scene, I call that.
and then their main guy comes by and like, oh, you did a good job, and Michael Pena was like, oh, you want to suck his dick or something? Yeah, I'd suck his dick. And it's like, you got to tell me if you're joking. You have to tell me if you're joking.
I'm not joking. And then the absolute gay panic. I loved, that's a character, like the head cop guy. You always thought he was going to come in and like do something, but he was always like coming in and be like, you guys are great, I love you guys, then walk off. Frank Grillo was the one grilling their ass the whole time, but then that guy who you build up at the very beginning, like, you want to be him. Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
Like,
it's you know how, going back to Twin Peaks: The Return, like you have the police station and like you've got that one room with all the new characters who are not as wholesome. He's from the wholesome half of the police station, where Andy and Lucy are.
Yeah, fair enough. He's not Chet. Fucking Chet. That was like the only negative one in the new police people, was just Chet. The rest of them were fine.
I know, but they had to hang around Chet, so it brought them down.
It would bring me down to hang around him. I think that's it.
I think we got it.
I think we can end this watch.
But do we recommend it? Because I'm thinking, like, not really.
You don't want to recommend this?
No, I recommend it.
I recommend it too. It's a fun time. It's got some intense stuff in there. Some really well shot sequences, even though I don't think it needed the framing device to tell the story fully. I think it kind of falls apart. I don't think we need to see the villains' points of view. I didn't care about them, nor did I care when they died. I don't give a shit. Just move on. So it's my recommendation for the next episode.
If you
want. It feels
want.
only like yesterday I recommended Soldier.
These cycles have been going by really quickly.
So let's do Soldier again. No,
Yeah, fair enough.
We're not doing Soldier.
We're doing Cop Out again.
We're doing Bubble Boy again.
We're doing
but with your mum as the guest.
We're gonna finally go through all of Like Mike.
All of it. No, so we are going to do a Korean film, Bartek.
Whoa, my
We're
second
going
Korean
to
film.
South Korea. What was your first?
The Handmaiden.
Well, that's right. Well, I've forgotten that you are uncultured swine.
I know.
So we are doing a movie from 2018, I want to say, or 2019.
I remember that year.
Burning.
Burning. That's an English word.
That's the name of the movie. Well, Handmaiden was an English title too. So, Burning is the film of choice. So make sure to watch that, people. This film is an interesting one, Bartek. I will say for you, it's a thinking film. So have that in mind when you watch it.
Eyes open.
Your eyes open. Prepare for metaphors and thoughts. Don't expect it to be action film. So
it's a chill hangout film like this.
No. So that's the film of choice for me. We'll be talking about that next episode. Until then, people, you can find us on the social medias of Facebook and Twitter under Spit and Polish Presents. You'll find us pretty quickly and pretty easily. We're always posting stuff on there, having discussions, having debates, people telling us their thoughts. You can recommend movies to us on there, or you can recommend movies to us through our email, which is, Bartek?
spitandpolished@gmail.com.
It's all in the description of the episode, as well as the ability to click on whatever podcatcher you're listening on and give us a rating and review if you can. If you can, please.
We like them.
We like them. Bartek, his name. It sounds like how it's written down.
Yeah, it's written
down. Talk about
like...
Bubble Boy. That's the best review we ever got. The one that complained
that
we were covering the film Bubble Boy from 2000 and whatever, starring Jake Gyllenhaal, not the film called The Boy in the Bubble from 1970, starring John Travolta. Yeah, it's our fucking fault that we did expressly have it written down and stated the year, the name of the movie, and the star. It's our fault that you didn't understand as a listener that it was not the same movie.
Ryan, You stole the cold ending I was going to do for this episode. I was going to say, oh, Jake, no, that was John Travolta, wasn't it?
Yep, that's right. That's my complaints out for this one. Till next time, people, bubble away.
Like John Travolta.
I mean, John Travolta and Michael Pena are both Scientologists, so connect.